What's going on, XSF? Week 3. You are watching the live Flick and MacHugh countdown show. I'm here with Sean, co-host today, owner
Hey,
of
Adam.
the Baltimore Ravens. What's going on, Sean?
Good morning. Good morning. It's going to be, we got lots to talk about. Lots of injuries, lots of about faces on who's going to play, who's going to be able to come back this year. It's going to be awesome.
Hey, I see your logo here. I don't know if you can switch to see your glamorous face or not.
You should see it now, but it might be.
Okay.
Oh, look at that. We got Dustin coming on
Hey.
here.
All right, so week 3, lots to talk about. Detroit, old man Detroit is not with us today. We're supposed to have owner of the Oakland Raiders, Colin Rinku. Looks like we got Dustin on the line now. You want to bring him on real quick?
Sure. Yeah. I think he's got himself on mute. Dustin?
Hey guys.
Hey, Dustin, you just watching or you want to join here for a minute?
Yeah, I'll just watch for a little while. If you want to bring me in later, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, real quick. I saw you message me. Something about a wide receiver getting bumped next year. I don't remember saying anything about that. The wide receivers should be the same as what they are this year, point wise.
Yeah, I think it's tight end. Wasn't there something with tight end?
Tight end gets extra half a point per reception.
So we'll get 1.5?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's just going from 1 to 1.5 for tight ends.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was my only question. I thought I heard something about that.
All right.
All right.
So,
yeah, I'll just listen for a while and then bring me in later if you want.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, we got about 45 minutes left for today. We got to kind of run it short today. So let's talk about some key matchups, or some of the top matchups last week, and the results. What teams are 0-3? Trying to pull up last week's schedule here.
Yeah, I think looking at some of the 0-3 teams, we had the Houston Texans are 0-3. The
Rams really surprised me.
Yeah, and the Raiders, and then I think the Philly John and the Eagles. It was very tough for me to see on the poll that he himself said that his team is done. That saddened me.
I squeaked out. Luckily, I played the Packers. I only scored 254 points. Packers scored 233. And so I'm not, very pleased with this team at all moving forward. So I can't be proud of that win. It's good to get the win, but you only scored 254 points. It's you got a lot to think about.
Well, it sounds like you got Christine Michael full time today, so that's good news.
Yeah, Christine Michael. Sounds like I got Kenyon Drake, Spencer Ware. I got a lot of starter ball hog guys today, but it's trying to figure out who to start.
Yeah, and I'm going with the both Falcon running backs on Monday night. So if I don't keep it close, it's going to be quite an interesting Monday night. If I need 50 on Monday night from those two, it's going to be an interesting night because I gotta we got two matchups for everyone this week, and I got to win both of mine if I want to hang into this race.
And who the Falcons play Monday night? The Saints.
Saints, yeah. I mean, certainly the opportunity is there.
Right. Just to touch again on last week, Percy, Prince of the South, Atlanta Falcons. He scored 311 last week to beat the Saints. That was very surprising.
Your dad, I was very impressed. He beat the Vikings, well over 300 points. He's 3-0. Impressive squad there.
Dallas went ape shit again, 370 points. Beat the Giants by over 100. There was a couple of good close games. The Bills and Patriots came down to 2 points. Patriots got their first W.
Yeah, and the Dolphins, I think they had something like 375 points.
Yeah, the Jets Jets got to the 300 club and they still lost. Played the Dolphins 375.
Yeah, watch out for the Dolphins, that's for sure. We can't I think we got on the AFC side, the Dolphins, the Browns, and the Broncos are the three hottest teams out there.
I'd put the Titans up there too. The Titans won last week, making them 3-0. They scored over 300, beat the Colts.
It's going to be interesting. We're going to have, we're going to have some teams, like the teams that make the playoffs. Like you're probably going to have to be like, I don't know, 12-4 to make the playoffs. I don't know, 11-5 in the AFC.
At least 11-5. I don't think there was a team. There might have been in the AFC and the NFC. Everybody was 11-5 or better.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you start out 0-3 and your chances go down to about 2% to make the playoffs. So
exactly. This week is huge.
Yeah, let's go on to this week. This week we got a doubleheader. We're done with our division games. Our first 3 games were division foes. So, yeah, I mean, this week is tremendous. I put a couple trade baits out there for a couple teams who haven't responded just for this week. I mean, that's how big this week is.
Yeah.
You were talking about the commission put out an article for rivalry games this week. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, so it looks like actually I need to skip down. We just had a new article put out on a big trade. Hold on, let me get to my. Apparently, AJ Green has been traded. Some breaking news out there. You got a full article
AFC?
In the NFC.
Oh boy!
In the Redskins and the Eagles, it looks like. So getting to rivalry week. So it looks like for week 3, it's going to be the Dolphins versus the Browns, the Cowboys versus the 49ers, and your Bears versus the Seahawks. Can you maybe talk a little bit about kind of what rivalry week is all about?
Yeah. So last year, commission implemented this, kind of a side gig to get teams, hyped. Similar to the NFL, really, I guess. Mm-hmm. So he creates these games, where teams might be chatting back and forth on the chat board and chirping in each other's ear a little bit. Last year, me and the Ron Seahawks, we went at it. Me and the Packers, old Packers owner Barry, we kind of went at it. So he makes these games to bring, to elevate the week-to-week games. So whoever wins between myself and the Seahawks today, we can change, or really tomorrow, we can change the other person's name. So instead of it saying Seattle Seahawks on here, I can change it to, whatever I decide. There's some crazy names last year. So I think, I don't know if that's going to run every week from now on through the playoffs or not.
Yeah, he's got a schedule through week 12.
Okay.
I'm not sure what flex means, week 9 through 12, but we'll have to
I'm
read out
thinking,
the article.
yeah, kind of like the NFL where they can flex, better games if those
Oh, I
teams
see.
aren't performing.
Gotcha.
If these teams are quiet on the chat board and may not use this to its advantage by changing the other team's name or what have you, then I think he'll pull those games and put in a new one.
Okay. Sounds like fun. Can't wait.
So yeah, that's what it's all about. All right, let's move on to like I said, some key matchups this week with it being a doubleheader. These 0-3 teams, these 1-2 teams. Myself, I play the Seahawks. I play the Bucks. I think they're both 2-1. Seattle Seahawks might be 1-2. But I got to come out of here with 2 W's. Got to finish the end of this week sitting at 3-2. Miami versus Cleveland, both undefeated teams. That's going to be probably the game I'm going to watch this week.
Definitely.
You have anything to add to?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm playing the Bills and the Jaguars. They actually both got off to a good start. Jaguars had Belichick coaching. That was pretty rough for me. I'm hopefully, I've got Adam Gase, the Dolphins coach, against the Browns. So hopefully we can have a similar victory on the Dolphins side to help me out. But Bill started off well, so I don't know. We'll see. I've got to beat both. If I can't beat both of those teams, my team is not going to make the playoffs anyway, in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be a dogfight.
The Redskins are jumped out on top of the Vikings. I really need a Vikings loss today to catapult me into the second position here in the conference. Or sorry, not the conference, but the division. Yeah, it looks like San Francisco, man, they jumped out. They got a 65 points already. They're already doubling up the Cowboys. That's a big game to watch too.
Yeah, that sounds like a big one.
Yeah, let's you want to get in your sleeper picks, or let's do the MacHugh's must-haves for week 3.
Well, it's certainly it's a pretty crazy week this week after all the injuries of week 2. Lots of about faces. Starting with the Lions, saw a report earlier today that Abdullah is expected back after the bye, and then not too long after that, Adam Schefter reported out that they actually think Abdullah is probably done for the year. So certainly looking at the Lions with Theo Riddick, it sounds like he's going to get the start, but he's not really he's not great at rushing the ball. So we expect to see a lot of Dwayne Washington. So if you've got Dwayne Washington and need some running back help, he'd be the guy to get in your lineup. I think we talked a little bit about Christine Michael getting a full load for the Seahawks. That's a definite must. And then the Dolphins, they all week we're hearing Ajayi was going to be the starter at running back. And so just saw some news that Drake is going to get the start. Now, who knows? Really, they're saying Ajayi and Pete and Williams, for one reason or another, are in the doghouse with the coach. So it could be more about that than anything else, but we'll see. But definitely, I think Drake's got to be in your lineup against the Browns team. It's still kind of a toss-up there. You never know how much time he'll get. And then going to the Vikings, they lost AP for the season one day, 8 weeks another day. We'll see where that lands. But great opportunity for Jerick McKinnon as the starter, it sounds like today. Certainly Asiata is going to get the goal line chances. So, temper your expectations there for sure. Also, the Chiefs. So it sounds like Charles is definitely out for week 3. So you got to get Spencer Ware in there. I know you've got him in there. And then another surprise that happened this morning with the Giants, Rashad Jennings, they talked about him being able to play with a cast on, but they decided he's going to sit. From everything I've heard here, certainly wait for the updates. And Vereen's going to get the start. So opportunity there also for for the rest of the Giants running backs. Flipping over to the wide receivers, actually Matt from the Colts alluded to this morning, but Terrell Pryor looks like a really good start at wide receiver. Obviously, he being their best receiver right now, healthy, health-wise. Who knows if the quarterback can get him the ball, but the Dolphins' corners are not very good. So while they're great for fantasy, they're not good in real life. So that should be an interesting matchup there. And then with the Bills, it sounds like Watkins is going to be inactive. I even saw a note that Marquise Goodwin is going to be their featured receiver, if you can imagine that. We saw a big play, obviously, a couple Thursdays ago. Yeah, it'll be an interesting week. I'm sure, there's always going to be more injuries. Also, a couple quick injury notes that I've seen so far. Delaney Walker, he's going to test his hammy. Not sure about sounds like the team thinks it's going to be a close call. So I've got him. I don't know if I can start him today. I might have to get somebody else in the lineup. I'm worried about that. And then also, I hadn't heard much about this, but Willie Snead, he's expected to be a game time call. So you want to keep an eye on that. I think we'll start to see some injury and some updates in the next 10 minutes. So we'll bring those up as they pop up. But I think that pretty much covers it. Do you have any other kind of thoughts there?
I was going to hop over on the defensive side.
Yeah.
DeAndre Levy, he's out today. His backup is also out today, so they're going down to the third string guy. On that Detroit linebacking core.
The backup, trying to remember, I think I might have him. I didn't start him, but he had I know he was questionable.
I forget his name.
Yeah, that's definitely big for them. And
they're starting Thurston Ambrister.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
so
because the other guy was I have him right here. I have him on my Antoine Williams. I think he scored 9 points last week. He came in, but yeah, he's out. Interesting. That's going to be rough for the Lions today.
Rough for my Bears also.
Yes, your Bears. Yeah.
I am struggling at linebacker. Anyway, so as you mentioned some of these running backs, I was going to ask you here. So I got, obviously, Stewart is out this week, so I'm benching him. So Frank Gore plays the Chargers. I like that matchup.
Yeah.
I also signed Dexter McCluster, who they say he's going to get some touches this week. Obviously, I'm not going to start him. I want to see, what he's got. But he's already familiar with the offense, being in, whatever. Anyways, the coach was the Titans coach a couple years ago. Can't remember his name.
Yeah, he knows. They say he knows the offense. I think Kenneth Farrow on the Chargers. I think definitely look for him. Melvin Gordon's going to get a full load, so if you've got him, you better get him started. This is at least.
Yeah, but a full load for Melvin Gordon is 2.5 yards a carry.
Hey, we'll see. I mean, maybe Kenneth Farrow will get some work and get some big plays or something like that. It'd be interesting. I wouldn't start Kenneth Farrow, but keep an eye on him for sure.
And I also have Kenyon Drake, who I sniped from the Vikings. So my question is, between Kenyon Drake, Frank Gore, Christine Michael, Spencer Ware, what three of those guys are you going to start? Would you start?
Definitely Spencer Ware. Definitely Michael.
Spencer Ware against that Jets defense. I mean, that's.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not too worried about that. I think he's a guy you've got to start when you have a couple of guys that are kind of question marks. But I think Michael and Ware for sure. So
then it would come down to Frank Gore or Kenyon Drake.
I think you got to start Gore personally. I wouldn't start Drake until you actually see him. Maybe he'll have a real crazy good game, and he definitely could have a crazy good game. But I just feel like you got to start Gore. Unless you're feeling really desperate and you need huge upside. But Gore's done, he's hung in there pretty well.
Yeah, he's getting his. I mean, he's a average machine. You know what I'm saying? He'll get you 20 points every game, but he's not going to go up that next level and get you the home run 30, 35 point game.
I just like, for me, especially playing 2 matchups this week, I don't know. I worry about Drake because even if he is starting, and he played well in a short period of time. Obviously he looked great at Alabama, except when he was hurt a lot though. He missed a lot of time. So, I don't know. I think Gore is a guy. If you want 20 points, I think you get Gore in there and get your 20 points. But I hear you. I mean, if you're feeling desperate, but if you're playing 2 matchups, I don't know if I'd get too
right. Are you there?
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's move on. They don't quite have the inactive list out yet. That comes out at 11:30, so getting close.
Yeah. Okay. I just heard Adam Schefter's reporting that Delaney Walker is inactive. So I need to get him out of my lineup right now. Here's a question for you. Let me ask you. Let's help me with a matchup here. So, I could play a tight end. I could play a wide receiver. I've got Pitta. I think he I think he caught 10 passes last week, something like that. I got Pitta. I've got Emmanuel Sanders, who's been they just haven't passed the ball, as much as, in need a wide receiver to get touches. Who do you think I should start?
I would definitely go with Emmanuel. I'm starting him. I think the Bengals are going to focus on shutting down CJ.
Yeah.
So, I definitely look to be the best game. I think this is going to be the best game for Emmanuel. I must say, like 6 catches for 80 and a TD. I'd take it all day.
I'm signing up for that one. And say, okay, so Adam promised.
Put it down on my score right now.
I guess I'm going with 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers this week. All right. Hey, also just saw that it's official that Sammy Watkins is inactive. Won't play today.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Kind of funny. I read last night. He says, "Oh, I'm playing. I'm starting." Yeah. And I woke up this morning to a notification that says, "Oh, Sammy Watkins is out." Thought, man, what the hell? He stubbed his toe going to the bathroom in the middle of the night, or what? Rinku!
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning.
How's it going?
Going well. Good to see you guys live.
Yeah, great to see you.
If it's too much background noise, I can switch to, I know I'm not professional, I'm a novice. I know nothing about IT, even though my wife is an expert. So if I need to go with the headphone look like you guys do, tell me, I don't know.
Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Okay.
I didn't know you were a Giants fan. Very nice.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, Eli fan. My dad was an Ole Miss alumni back in '69, so he remembers when Archie and Mrs. Archie were homecoming king and queen in the good old days. So his claim to fame for NFL fandom was when Eli got drafted and was actually good. So yeah, huge Giants guy. Lived there for about 5 years working at New York Hospital Queens. So yeah,
cool.
Ravens and Giants.
Great. So how's it going? How are you feeling right now about your team?
Man, it's going. I guess I've got the, I know you were talking about matchups this morning, so the most intriguing matchup is not any of these 3-0 teams facing off a 3-0 team, and that's like yawn garbage. Who cares? Let's see who the bottomest of the bottomest is. We've got Mr. Al, who logs in with the commissioner all week long, going, who are these teams going to be 0-7? You have to have 3 running backs in this league. You got 1 running back. You're the only motherfucker in the league running a 3 tight end set. I think Michigan State runs that. They got smoked by Wisconsin yesterday, 30-1 million. And you're laughing. So, it's between the Texans and the Raiders today. Who's going to plant that flag in the bizarro world Everest as the team to be in XFF? I'm excited, man. So far, Both teams have a Patriot that sucked a nut. I mean, Gronkowski was hellacious out there. He totally clobbered Clowney on that goal line block. I think that's worth 40 points in XFF, at least 40 points. And, on the other side, Jadeveon, I think it's a negative 30 when you get pancaked by a guy who has a bad hamstring. So the week's off to a good start, and we'll see what happens today about performance. But no, overall, like I said, my rant the other day was just, as we all know, fantasy is fantasy, guys are guys, trash talk is trash talk, but evidence-based moves are what we like to see by guys. You want competition. You want knowledgeable owners in your league. It makes you feel good that you're schooling somebody, not some third graders at your grandma's nursing home down the road where you've won 3 championships in a row. At the same time, I like the poll questions this week because they were intriguing. And for me personally, it was good to see some of the answers on the teams when the poll questions had answers like, is it roster management is why this team is performing badly or well? Is it talent? Is it bad decisions? Is it lack of this or that? And the answers there showed me a lot of the good ownership was you could see the correct assessment per se of, oh, that team just has stars and aren't performing. Obviously, in both conferences right now, if you're a Todd Gurley owner, you haven't had the juice. If you're a Des Bryant owner, like the commissioner is with me, and so we share the same similarity. If you're a Julio Jones owner, he's posted 9 for 180 and 2 touch. We were used to that being the baseline last year. He hasn't done that. So there's a lot of stars in the league that haven't performed. And if you see those answers, you feel good about the league in the sense that the eyes of owners are correctly placed. If you see owners that are badly doing things on their team, trades that are questionable, as long as there's evidence to back them. So, I feel all right with my moves. I kind of explained my move on D'Angelo and Palmer in the press release. The defense is coming along. I think there's choices there. Trevathan's out with a hand, but the 6 linebacker unit is good. It's just, star power will come, and we'll see for my squad. But that's what's going on this week against the Texans, who, are there. As far as the other things in the league, I like some of the matchups you guys were outlining, some of the 3-0 teams. I saw your comments last week about the NFC West in particular with the Cardinals, and I think somebody brought them up that they were a team that you guys had an eye on in the preseason beforehand that you thought would really challenge the Niners and whatnot. I liked a lot of those comments. I saw what was being talked about in the South over there and what's been going on, and some of the analysis you guys had on some rosters that, we'll see how it plays out. They've got ideas with these running backs. I think the star player in our league right now with what he's trying to do is the Browns. I made a trade with him, obviously, with D'Angelo Palmer. He recently made another trade, I think, yesterday and brought in some more guns to help out. His running back unit essentially is what's intriguing in fantasy this year. Ryan Matthews has been, for 2 weeks, really great. The Chiefs running back situation we know is a top 5 unit as far as every year in fantasy. We all know there's 5 lottery tickets. What is it going to be? 10 years ago, it's Brandon Stokely. 12 years ago, it's Jerome Bettis in a hurrah year with 13 touchdowns. Every year, it's someone. So right now, he's got a couple of those names, and how long they go will be big. And in the AFC, some of the powerhouses, the talk this week with Broncos and Colts is fabulous to see. Ravens in there trying to mediate them and not get them to have World War VI on the message board is fun too. And, what their performances are going to be. But Beckham hasn't been what he wants. We know that. Or on the league, we can talk about it, but we know. And some of his players on defense haven't been what they're supposed to be, what he wants. So I think I like a lot of what's been said last week, and that's where I was at. I think for me personally, it was just funny that, you some of the rants and angles were, what is this guy doing? What is he not? And for fantasy, for me, it's like I said, I appreciate the poll answers that showed me a lot of thought and viewership that people really analyzing rosters when they answer. The second thing is, carry that through. If I'm a new guy in this league, there's 2 angles to go. Number one, do you check your ego at the door, and do you say bye-bye to the whore? I kept all my draft picks. So that should be a signal to anybody sending a trade offer that the guy who took over the Raiders with $50 million, the previous owner didn't participate in free agency, he's at least knowledgeable enough to know he's going to suck, and he's not going to trade his pick away so that next summer he's twiddling his thumbs in his nutsack when the other guy has his pick and going, ha, ha, ha. I think Al from the Texans told a story like that last week on one of the shows. He said, I remember my first year, I traded that pick away. Somebody's got Gurley because of that. So if you see me not doing that, then don't send me some bullshit over with fucking my picks or some shit with the tagline, this will really help you next year when you're planning to rebuild. I'm not doing that. Somebody bashing about the Jimmy Graham trade. What is that guy doing? He thinks he's smart. Jimmy Graham sucks and blah, blah, blah. Look at the deal. I mean, it's cap relief. I mean, so when people post short-sighted stuff, that's when you just want to mouth off a little bit like we all do on fantasy message boards. So, I mean, that's a lot of it where it was, But at any rate, I was having fun pulling the commissioner's leg. Like I said, I like watching him talk, and he has a little giggle and chuckle here and there. And then watching him be 0-2 last week and a must-win. I couldn't imagine how badly I would have gone on this show today if he was 0-3 like me, and pointed out the fact that he's got a 3-man defense. I got 11 guys on defense, and he does too. I got 6 bitches better than his 3 bitches, and he's got more longer shots than me. He's hoping to pan out. He's got the same Des Bryant underperforming like me, and he's talking. I was hoping he'd be 0-3 like me, and I could point this out with a giggle and a chuckle and a monster drink in my hand, that it's going to make my team better. But alas, I'm 0-3, he's 1-2. We'll wait till next week when I can, light a fire at the top of the executive building of XFF. So we'll see. But so that's my morning start off.
Yeah, that's some good shit. Hey, you mentioned Ryan Matthews. Did you just see the trade that Commish gave up? He gave up Ryan Matthews, a first and a second for AJ Green.
I think, like I said, in fantasy, speculation is where you're at. We know Matthews in the fantasy community is a 1,200-yard 6 guy. That was his peak in San Diego. We know what Philadelphia wants to do and what they're trying to do. Anybody who went long on Wendell Smallwood thus far hasn't gotten any dividend, hasn't snipped any snaps. We know his injury history. But on the other hand, a first-round pick and a second-round pick in there, and you get, Matthews. If I remember the salary count in that conference, I remember he's got Matthews at not a cheap salary, if I remember correctly. I think he paid for him, must have paid for him in free agency or something. It looks like he's a double-digit salary. Is that correct, if I remember right?
19.5.
Yeah, and so it's different than in our conference where Browns has him at a relatively lower salary. So on the one hand, Fantasy 101 says trade the hot player. Fantasy 101B says which player is the best in the trade. We know AJ Green to be that case, but this is a complicated, detailed league with salaries and whatnot. I like the deal for both parties. I know what's been brought up, and you pointed out to me, I think when we were talking once about the rule changes for running backs and carries and such next year moving forward. I don't think that's applicable here because you just pointed out the salary is so exorbitant. I don't believe that's a long-term player on the roster anyway. I think it's a hot trade to see where it goes. Green is what he is. Last week, obviously, it is what it is. But overall, for me personally, my only caveat with Green, whenever 60 million of us were juicing at the fact they've lost a lot of pass-catching talent, he may increase his targets this year, was with an increase in targets for a star receiver comes a distribution of those targets at different passing levels. The short, the intermediate, and the long. Just because you increase 45 targets for a stud receiver doesn't mean they're all bombs. There are going to be some short ones. Guys like Julio with the body or guys like Antonio with the jukes are used to a lot of short passes. They're used to getting out of bounds and not taking hits. AJ Green's rail thin. We remember last year, a helmet on the bicep in the Broncos game, he's out. A helmet on the abs, he's out. He's a little different. So with 45 extra targets, 20 of those, probably the variety where it's short, quick hops, pops on the body, that would be the only minor asterisk. Not to say that I'm worried of injury. I wouldn't say that phraseology. But that was the only star negative. But overall, pointing out that trade, I think it's a hot for both players. Matthews could become, come December, when we list, as I mentioned, the 5 2016 lottery tickets. He might very well be on that list as somebody who far exceeded what we all predicted and projected and be one of those players, like I said, in the Hall of Fame with a Brandon Stokely type, with a Bettis type, or any of these names that come out of the woodworks and are the difference because no one else had that on their plate. So that's an interesting one you bring up, yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, so I've asked the commish to update the rivalry week so that the Texans and Raiders are on that list for this week. So I think that's happening. So if you can win this, Rinku, you can call the Houston Texans whatever you want. So enjoy.
And at that point, probably because I'm a gracious young man who has a very nice vocabulary, I will be summoning the assistance of league commissioners, my fellow teammates and league mates and general managers, for some creative words to place on that name. So yes, definitely that would be something very exciting that could potentially be on the horizon. But first things first, we need to whip some boys into shape and try to play. You know, if ridiculous Dak Prescott can have his coming out party on a Sunday night football game against an atrocious Bears defense, down several players, Trevathan out, you know, this could be a show. I think I remember a few years ago, didn't they have a 45-point night on a Sunday night or Monday night football game against the Bears on a bad night? So if it's a second coming, let's see. Definitely need the help. But I appreciate the encouragement for that.
Hey, good luck today, Rinku.
Appreciate you. What other big time? I was curious after what you all said last week. So this week, what do you see as the biggest 3-0 of those on the poll questions? What do you all feel is the biggest 3-0 matchup going this week as far as important?
I'll tell you what. Looks like we got Mark from the Denver Broncos that joined us. Why don't we bring him on and talk to him about? He's 3-0.
Okay,
Mark, can you hear us? Mark, can you hear us? Can't hear you.
He's on mute right now. Now he's not.
Can't hear you. Sign language, buddy.
I can see Sean, and I've got him. Yeah, Mark. There, he's got the earplugs, and he's plugging them in.
Hey, I guess I'll go ahead and touch on that. I think. Oh, you there?
I'm here. I'm listening. Can you hear me?
I hear you. Can't hear you, Mark. Can't hear you, Mark. Hey, you keep working on that. I'm gonna talk to Rinku. Yeah, the 3-0 teams. Let's go back to the polls to
I think it's.
My response for Rinku is it's got to be the Browns and Dolphins. That's a huge matchup this week.
yeah, and I like the I think the Denver and Tennessee. I think that's a big matchup. I like. I don't know. That's gonna be a tough one.
I think my take was, well, I wanted to hear what y'all said, and you both gave, it's a 50-50. I think preseason, the Broncos won just because we know what the Broncos and the Colts were supposed to look like, what they're supposed to be. I think I'm more intrigued with Tennessee simply by the fact he's doing it without his stud Jamal Charles, who's soaking up so much money on his team, and he's got the guys who were in a redraft this year. Matthew Stafford was that forgotten guy in round 7, 8, 9, 10 that you picked along with Cousins and Eli and whatnot. He's performed so far so well this year. He's got some younger players that have actually showed up and not been hurt yet, Carlos Hyde, but his defense particularly, obviously he's gotten the defensive end performances. He's got 2 Vikings. I think he's got Griffin, and he's got the linebacker who I think also performed well in the last couple of weeks. Now, he is the guy that offered me Lawrence Timmons for Josh Gordon, and Lawrence Timmons is ranked like 29th or 36th in linebackers, and that was when got my butt when I have 6 guys rated ahead of that guy. But other than that, he made the big trade for Kuechly out of the rebuilding Jaguars. So if he were to get this W, that would really I think push him as somebody who we would say he put us on notice. I would lean 55-45 over that other answer.
No, I agree. I mean, we've got 4 really good 3-0 teams in the AFC that are going to be reckoned with for sure. And I'm just trying to get into that, maybe get the 5th or 6th spot in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think management is one way, but player performance is always what it's going to come down to. And if the guys play, and they're doing it. They're doing it. The move, obviously, the Eddie Lacy Peterson move. At one point, anybody in America who made that move, bingo. Your dog's name is Bingo, and you got out of that. Anybody who had the Danny Woodhead move this year, 50% of American guys in fantasy thought one more year at 226 in the PPR, I'll take it, even though the contract's in reality going to expire. Yeah. The other 50% roll dice on that. But as far as players, Sammy Coates is still intriguing there. Lacy and some guys for the Dolphins on the roster. Defensively, D Ford is somebody who was out there. Zachary Orr has been negotiated and tried upon, but never signed an offer sheet or a contract from some fellow people trying to get him, But he's proven to be a guy. And quietly, I'll tell you who I love on that roster is David Bruton coming from Denver over to play with the Redskins. That's one of those guys that I think is going to show up this year and really be a performer. The other two that I don't know who the owners are, Tavon Branch, in fantasy 4 or 5 years ago with the Raiders was great, had the broken leg, bounced around, couldn't stick with the Chiefs, I believe. And now this year in 2 games with Arizona, he is performing the way Dayon Buchanan did 2 years ago for them. I think he's posted 8 or 9 solos back-to-back weeks. That's an intriguing type player. So I think along with Bruton on that roster, that's there.
Yeah, and I think that's really, we've seen some really good offensive play on some of these teams that are 3-0, but some defensive players, and I'm not saying completely surprising, but there are some players on there that I didn't see hitting the numbers they're hitting, and they've hit big on several players in each of those teams, and that's been a big difference maker for them for sure.
Completely agree. Well said, yes. And the borderline today, and as we move into the end of this September now, is to your sentence, what we all do in fantasy is, on our left hand, on the one hand, is this the 2-week wonder defender who's piled up some stats? Or moving forward, is this a sleeper 2016 defender? Exactly as you put. We're in that mode right now. This is week 3, week 4. We're all tracking snaps on Pro Football Reference. We're all tracking the game flows of these teams that have played them. Is it real? Is it false? What kind of gold do I have? Completely agree. Offensively, it's been very easy to see the star power that hasn't lived up to first round or second round billing. You're right. That's been a clear cut one.
Definitely.
Mark, can you hear us?
Try again. Does it work now?
Oh, we got them. Let's bring on the undefeated.
I switched to mobile, so
Okay.
I think I had this issue before actually when somebody else had a Google Hangout. It just doesn't work on my Mac for some reason.
There may be some problem setting, but go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah, go ahead.
What? Oh, I was going to say, we are with Mark from the Denver Broncos. You are one of the undefeated teams playing today, taking on the Tennessee Titans. You want to give your thoughts on that matchup?
That's probably the toughest out of the 2 that I've got this weekend. Jason's a savvy GM, and his linebacking core now is like essentially like having 4 running backs out there because they're all studs. You've got Bowman, you've got Keekly, you've got some really, really solid guys he's got there now. So whereas one of you guys was saying he hasn't got Jamal Charles and his points at the moment, he's kind of making up for that with a really, really strong defense. So yeah, I see Jason as the big rivalry for me this week. I think it's always been pretty close for this in the past. I think most times I've tended to just sort of sneak it over the line with him. I'm hoping that I'll have more on offense than he will, running with, again, 3 running backs. I'm still believing in Christy Michael, so hoping he come up with some big numbers today against the 49ers. But yeah, the other matchup is the Colts. I mean, they haven't even reached 300 yet, so, and he's not looking, he's had a bit of a baptism of fire. He came in all shouting and chatting and a lot of shit chatting, and I mean, he seems to be very good at the shit chat, and he just can't really back it up, which is such a shame. I mean, like he's moaning now that he's got injuries, but it's like you went for Thomas Rules, who got injured after only a few games of taking the full load last year at Seattle, and you traded for a 31-year-old running back. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? They're not drinking from the fountain of youth, or like they're not going to stop getting injured. So yeah, I bet he's regretting that Mike Evans trade now, who's now doing very well for Cleveland. So
Yeah.
nice trade that was.
No, exactly.
Mark, great job on the team and the roster. Good conversations. I think we've had some banter back and forth trying to work deals. Hopefully get one soon. I wanted to ask you particularly about 2-3 players. First of all, I wanted to throw you kudos. I think I just mentioned your team. Some of the Vikings you've had on the defensive line and linebacking unit done great. I wanted to throw you kudos on picking up Robert Golden, the safety in Pittsburgh. Somebody's got to do all the tackling in a backfield that's going to be passed against all year long because they score. Also want to throw you on a question on Jameis Winston, the big trade, obviously, in the offseason, Winston and Cousins, all that. What your personal take and feelings are on Winston before I, tell you how exorbitantly high I am on him and how I answer that poll question. How was that a slam dunk? Easy? Just what's your capsule on Jameis this year and what he is?
I hate giving up first rounders. So whereas Al was giving them out like sweets in the first year, which was pretty bad. I think guys soon learned that.
Whereas I'm holding on to mine like my wife's virginity. But go ahead.
Yeah, do that. Both I am sure are of similar value. So keep them like that. But yeah, keeping hold of the picks are they're key, and too many guys like just dealt them, and got rid of them. And but anyway, yeah, I dealt my first for Winston in the hope that I'd have one of my guys come off and I could get a first back some way, shape, or form later on in the season, which I've managed to do now. But I'm a big fan of Winston. He had like a few. I think the media were trying to spin some stories. Like the crab legs thing was just more funny than it was anything else. I think he's a really talented guy. I like how he took himself very seriously over the offseason. He dropped a lot of weight. Put the time and the training into not just. I mean, unlike you see guys like Roethlisberger, who obviously love the chicken wings as well as being able to throw the ball. He took it very seriously about how he sort of got himself into shape, took his physicality took it very seriously. And then you look at the other guys. I love Mike Evans. Like, I think he's fantastic. A shame to see ASJ go down the pan the way he is. I mean, if he could think as well he catches the ball, and the physicality that he brings to the game, I mean, he'd be up there with Gronk in my opinion. I think he's that physically that good. But sadly, he's kind of shot himself in the foot on this one. But yeah, I love Winston. I'd set myself up for a quarterback now. And the big thing is I don't have to spend money on a big name quarterback. I don't have to go and drop 16, 17 million. I've got him locked up now, and like it leaves me. It's the only way I can manage to keep hold of guys like Bell and Julio this year on insane contracts of like 30 million.
Yeah.
I completely agree with the pieces you're talking about with him. I answered the poll question earlier this year when I got asked as a new owner, who's your MVP? And I think when I answered the question, the commissioner emailed me back to ask me if I understood the question. I put Jameis Winston. I think the ceiling is going to blow up for him. Last week was a hiccup, but I think he could become that guy with 35 total touchdowns. The command, the poise, the winnership, the leadership, all of that. This is the guy with ice water in the veins. So I love that trade for you. Yeah.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, man. I guess Sean has to get his mistress back to the airport before his old lady gets home. We got to cut this show short.
Okay.
I really hate
good
to
luck,
interrupt
man.
you.
Appreciate you having me on. Probably started to steal your airwaves. And sorry there wasn't much cuss words, but I'll try next week. Hopefully I'm 1-3.
No, that's great.
All right.
Yeah. Next week we can run way long if we need to.
Great day of football, guys.
Thanks for joining
Hey, I
us.
appreciate you guys joining us.
No worries. Have a good day, guys.
All right.
Yep. We'll see you next week. Hey, Sean. Hey, that was a good show. Thanks for hosting this week, and yeah, we'll see everybody again next week, week 4.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care, Adam. Thanks very much.
Yep.